Hey guys, it's Michelle from Cozyegg, and this is episode 48. Today is Friday, January 26th, 2018. So I am recording on it, kind of a weird day. I don't normally record on Fridays, but this just happened to be the evening that Eric was out of the house. So I'm going to try to fit in a quick video before he calls me and says he's on his way. So what have I been up to? So I think since I recorded last, we did the first kind of post about Woodpocalypse, and so obviously I went through everything I was going to do in my previous video, but then on my blog I went through and showed kind of photos of all of my Woodpocalypse Year of Whips, whatever we want to call it, pieces that I'm going to work on. And tomorrow actually is the first kind of check-in post. So sometime tomorrow, hopefully I will be able to take some photos and get a blog post up and post in the Facebook group, etc. But let me show you what I've been working on. So I think last time I showed you that I was working on, like the next piece that I was going to work on was his eyes on the sparrow. So I'm trying to basically kind of stick to that, you know, weekly rotation, and I'm doing something actually a little bit differently over the past couple of weeks. So let me actually, before I dig into showing you sparrow, let me tell you about what I've been doing with my rotation. So, you know, I kept on Instagram seeing all of these, you know, Friday off the grid party, you know, kind of posts. And I know that Off the Grid Needleworks had been doing, you know, kind of a Friday stitch along, etc. Well, she has started a Facebook group. I don't know if it's been around for a long time and I just discovered it, but anyway, a few weeks ago, she actually posted on her Instagram, hey, come join the Facebook group. So I did that. And so what I have been doing the past few weeks is starting my new rotation, like switching pieces on Friday and then joining in the Friday off the grid stitch along, which is kind of like a great kind of kickstart to the week. And it's fun to kind of dig in on a new project and do the stitch along with other folks and post progress, you know, beginning and ending of the night or beginning and ending of the weekend. While I was working on Mystery 9, I had actually been participating in the Friday Chatelaine stitch alongs in the Chatelaine support group on Facebook. And you know, I found that that was really inspiring and helpful to kind of do a little check-in and say, here's where I'm starting, here's where I'd like to get to over the weekend, here's kind of where I got to. So it was really, you know, of course, now that I'm not working on Mystery 9 right now, I can't really check in on the Chatelaine page. So it was really appealing to me to do that kind of Friday night stitch along. So in order to kind of, you know, work within that, that's why I started switching on Fridays instead of, I think I normally switch on Sundays, or yeah, Sundays. So I thought I'm just going to switch on Friday. So I pulled out, the first piece that I pulled out to work on was his eyes on the sparrow, and in my last video kind of showed you where I was starting with that. And so let me show you where I'm at now. So this is what I got done. So I put a little more border in because I was trying to kind of I wanted to get the border done for this page. So I wanted to bring this over here, and then I was going to start kind of working down. Now, I had stolen one of the threads out of here, so I had to go find that, which was the Oscar, which is for the green border, but I did find that. So I was able to do a little bit of border. I worked on this flower vase basket thing. I already had this part done, so it was just the flowers and the leaves that I was doing. So I got all of that done. And then I came down here and I did this little butterfly, which is a little hard to see because he's really light colored. And then I started on this creature. I don't know if this is a deer or a dog, or I'm not sure. It could go either way, but I'm working on that creature. So I started kind of doing the outline because, and here's a word to the wise. I don't know if I mentioned this in my last video. Some of the symbols on this chart are super similar, and some of them are a little hard to decipher because there are two that are pretty close, and it's like, well, it could be either of those. It doesn't really look like either one, but it could be. So there's a little bit of deciphering that has to go on here. And the cow in particular is a little bit difficult. I know some folks ended up with a green cow or green spots or what have you. This deer, we're just going to call it a deer. This deer is a little similar. He's got a bunch of different colors in him, like 3 or 4 different symbols as far as I can tell. So he's sort of outlined in one color, and then inside he's got, excuse me, he's got a couple other colors like in his body. And so I thought I'm just going to kind of do this outline and kind of do, you can see like on his tail, that's all filled in, and up here by his ear, that's filled in too. So I thought I'm just kind of going to take this one color and see if I can kind of figure that out, because it looks like it might be a little confusing what goes where. So anyway, and then I did start this, this line right here, which is the top of the line where it says his eyes on the sparrow. So, and that's kind of the page mark is right under here where the words are. So yeah, so I got, you know, not a ton done, but I got a good bit done. And I'm pleased with that. I really enjoy working on this piece despite the confusing symbols. So, yeah, so I worked on that. And there was another, oh, I had to go find my Havana. My Havana went missing as well, which is the color of that deer. So I had to go find the Havana. So I worked on that for a week. And then the 13th was, I think, a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And so I actually waited to switch pieces until the 13th. Or no, maybe I did it on Friday. I don't know. At this point, it doesn't really matter, right? But for Dark 13 stitching, I wanted to get out my Halloween neighborhood and work on it, since that is one of my Year of Whips Apocalypse pieces. And so I worked on this for a week, and I managed to get that whole block done, which I'm really pleased with. I've been kind of bogged down on this block for months. In fact, I got tired of working on this, and so then I did this piece over here, and then I started working on some other little things. So anyway, I got a little bogged down with this, but I managed to get the last tombstone filled in. I think it was this one I was working on. I managed to get the tree all done, all the leaves, and then the bats. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. I'm really happy that it's done. And now I can move on to something else. So I'm actually in the process, I think I showed you on a previous video, I'm in the process of kind of charting out some of the other things that I want to put in here, mainly to kind of figure out my placement and what I have room for, that sort of thing. So up in this top right-hand corner, I have another big tree that I want to do, and I've actually got that all charted out. You know, it's from another design. I'm not charting it. It's not my design, but I put it in relation to these other things, and I like how it looks. So I think I'm probably going to move up to that top corner and work on that next. But so happy to have this finished, and technically I'm counting this as my first finish of 2018 because it is a whole block in my round robin piece, my neighborhood. So I worked on that for Dark 13 and then that whole week. And I mentioned that I was also going to work on my green Santa by Birds of a Feather for Santa Sunday. So I did participate in Santa Sunday a couple of weeks ago, and I worked on my green Santa, and he is looking super cute, I think. I love him. I really do. I love his little candy canes in his pocket. And his hand right here, he's got a big pretzel in his hand, which I can't wait to stitch. I just love him. So I really enjoyed working on him. Basically, what I got done that night was everything from his pockets down. So all of that got done. I just love him. So I will probably be picking him up again for Santa Sundays at some point. I don't know when. Maybe this Sunday, maybe not. I don't know. Okay, so that was Sparrow and Halloween neighborhood and Santa Sunday. And then this past week, I pulled out Dutch Beauty to work on. So, and you may remember that Emily and I started our Dutch Beauty Stitch Along together back in June. It was kind of like that last Stitch Mania start. We started it on June 12th, which is my dad's birthday. I wanted to start something special on his birthday. And Emily was very sweet to postpone a little bit so that we could do that. So anyway, so we started Dutch Beauty, but mine is, I'm converting all of the colors, changing the whole feel of the piece. So this is, just to give you, I mean, you can Google, right? So you know what this piece looks like because everybody and their dog's working on it now. But this is what the piece looks like. And so I am converting all of mine to be kind of dark, sort of jewel tones. And I dyed my own fabric for it. So this is kind of a medium gray. And this is 40 count mallow, which I didn't realize at the time, but I've heard a couple other people talk about it, that it has a little bit different consistency or a different feel to it. It's a little tighter woven than regular linen. It is a little tighter woven, particularly after I dyed it, but yeah, it's fine. At first it was a little, I had to get used to it, but it's fine to work on now. So let me show you where I'm at. So it would probably be helpful if I showed you this. I know this is going to be kind of funny, but okay, so this is what I have done so far. And so I'm pulling colors kind of as I go. I have a whole pile of threads that I'm using. I'm using some silks, I'm using some over-dyed cottons, I'm using some DMC. The original piece is charted for all DMC, and it's got, you know, 12 or 15 colors that are very pale. So like a light blue, there's a kind of a medium blue, there's a light yellow, there's a light pink, there's a cream, you know, you get the gist. So mine is obviously much darker. And so what I worked on when I picked this up is I finished all of the flowers, all of these lilies. and then I filled in the center of this vase. So I love how that turned out. I'm trying to get it so that there's some better light so that you can see. So the color of those lilies is gassed cinder, and then the lighter kind of pink color is Gloriana Vampire's Glamour. So I just absolutely love this piece. So I did that, and then the next piece was to move up to these roosters and this little tree of life. So you can't really see it on this, so I'm not even going to bother to show you. So the way that the roosters are charted is kind of their body is in one color, their head is in a different color, and then there's about three colors in their tail. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do my roosters pink with a yellow head. I wanted to do something a little darker, maybe even a little brighter. So I picked a red and stitched the body, and then kind of stitched in, you know, where his wing is. And I was like, nope, that's not working for me. So I ripped that out. I tried a different color red, like a deeper red. I didn't like that, so I ripped that out. And I posted up on Instagram, and I was like, major problem. I don't like how this is looking, and I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And so a couple different people, you know, posted comments, and one of them said, you know, hey, I have this this vase in my kitchen that has a rooster on it, and he's kind of tan, but then he's got red and blue and kind of the blue that's in your peacock, like in his tail. And then somebody else posted and said, you know, that they liked the red, but, you know, maybe pull out the gold that I'd put in kind of around his feathers, his wing, and use the same color, dark brown, that I had done his feet in. So I went to Google and I said, hey, Google, let's look at pictures of roosters, because clearly I do not know what a rooster looks like. So after looking at some pictures, I totally changed the way that I was stitching him. And I ended up, let me move this because I keep hitting this. I ended up doing his whole body in one color, which is, I think it's Belle Soie Mud Pie. Really? Get off of that. So I did that. I did the darker brown for his beak and for his wing. Oh, excuse us. Pardon us. And then I did his tail feathers in like an orange and a red and a green and the blue from the peacock. And then I did his little top knot, whatever that's called. I did that red. And I was like, yeah, I like this. This is so much better. He looks a million times better and actually looks more like a rooster. So I finished that, and then I went over to do this tree of life, and I used kind of two different colors of like a kind of dark burgundy and then a little lighter burgundy, and put that all in. And then I looked at it and said, yeah, I don't like it. I don't think I like that at all. Like, it doesn't, I feel like it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, it doesn't work with everything else. And part of it may be the variegation in that brown, because while there is some variegation in these lilies and stuff, it's not as pronounced as it is on him. So the other thing too is that, you know, when I get off kilter emotionally or stressed out, etc., I tend to over focus on something like my stitching. And so I sent a picture of it to my friend and said, I'm not happy with this at all. I don't know how to fix it. And her response was, it looks fine. Maybe you're overthinking it. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm overthinking it. So I don't know how I feel about it. So I decided that instead of ripping it out or continuing to try to mess with it, I'm just going to table it for now. I'm just going to leave it, and I might work on something else around it and then come back to it, because it was just frustrating me. So the other thing that I got a little worried about is I'm concerned that it's not going to fit on my piece of fabric, because I don't know if I mentioned this. So when I figured out the size of fabric that I need for 40 count, I knew that I could fit it on a fat half, on a stitcher's half, whatever we want to call it. And I knew exactly how big that is. Well, I assumed incorrectly that if I order a half yard, that I am actually going to get a half yard. And that if they tell me that it is 18 by 26, that it is actually going to be 18 by 26. That is not a true statement. Because, and I don't, you know, I'm not trying to say that shops are trying to hoodwink stitchers, but when they cut the fabric, particularly then if they serge the fabric, you are going to lose some of that measurement. So I did not take that into account. And then, of course, I dyed it, which shrunk it up. Now, theoretically, I still have the same number of threads per inch that I had previously. Like, I didn't lose some, but I just started to get very concerned that, oh my gosh, maybe I am going to all of this trouble and fighting with this stupid rooster, and this isn't even going to fit on this piece. So I decided I'm just going to, one, do something that's rather mindless rather than rooster shenanigans. And two, maybe it'll make me feel better, because then I'll figure out that yes, it will actually fit on this piece of fabric. So I decided to just work on my border. And so I want to do two things. I want to come up and go up the side and make sure that that's going to fit. I am pretty sure that I have plenty of room at the top and the bottom for my piece. It is side to side that I'm concerned about. So you can see how close I started on the side because I was concerned about it. So I've basically just been coming along here and working on this border, and I'm just working my way across, and I'm about halfway there. So I think it's gonna fit. I think it's gonna be just fine. But I'd like to actually know that before I continue to get too far into this. The other benefit, as I was thinking while I was working through that, is, you know, the piece is basically mirror images on both sides. There's a little bit of variation, but there's a lot of it that's mirror image. And so I thought, you know what? I'm really happy with how the lion and the peacock and this vase of lilies looks. Yeah, look at that vase of lilies. It's like this death color, pale brown tan. So I thought, you know what? If I just come all the way across here, I can just put these in on this side because I already know what colors those are going to be. And then I can start to kind of work my way in and do these 2 tulip vases and then get to the good stuff. So that may be my plan of attack. And then I'll deal with the roosters at another time because, yeah. So that's what I worked on in Dutch Beauty. I worked on it a good bit this week. Tuesday night I had EGA, and so I worked on it there. And yesterday I was supposed to go to Quilt Guild, Dallas Modern Quilt Guild, but I ended up with a really horrific migraine headache, and I basically had to just come home from work once I was able to drive. So I didn't go to Quilt Guild and I didn't do any stitching last night. So now it's Friday night and I'm ready for my Friday night off the grid stitching party. And I don't know what I'm gonna work on. I posted up in the group, everybody was kind of posting what they were gonna work on tonight. And I think I posted something to the effect of, I simultaneously want to work on everything and nothing. There is like nothing that I want to work on. Particularly nothing out of my Year of Whips, Whipocalypse, blah, blah. You know, I started to think, well, I could just continue on with Dutch Beauty, but I'm a little frustrated with it, so I don't think that's a good idea. And then I thought my initial intention was to work on Anniversaries of the Heart this next week, but the first thing I have to do is rip stitches out and pick different threads so that they show up on my fabric. And I'm just not in the mood to deal with that. And then I've got, you know, 2 other pieces that I could work on, but I'm not in the mood. And I absolutely do not want to start anything new, because then that just takes me down a whole different path of frustration. So I'm not starting something new. So I went in and dug around in my whips, and you know, I looked at kind of the first bucket of whips and nothing in there appealed to me whatsoever. So I went into the second bucket and I pulled out 2 different things that I feel like, yeah, I kind of want to work on those. So I may or may not work on one of those tonight. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when I'm done. But this is what I pulled out. I pulled out Frances Eden because I have been back into my, you know, I told you I was kind of missing my sampler stitching, and I am particularly missing stitching on my Adam and Eve pieces. So even those sparrows and Adam and Eve piece, but I don't know. I love this piece and I love the happy colors. So I thought, well, maybe I'll work on this. So I pulled it out. I have not worked on this since Stitch Mania when I started it. And like literally all I have is the snake. That's it. That's all I got. He's mighty handsome though, with his black and white checkerboard. So maybe I'll work on this. And this is 40 count vintage exemplar by Lakeside. And I am stitching it with a conversion to the hand-dyed fibers, the Vicki Clayton hand-dyed fibers silks. So, yeah. So, maybe I'll work on that. The other thing that I pulled out that I have not worked on in a long time, this is in one of my Tula Pink Parisville project bags that also has Parisville on the inside. The other one that I pulled out is Victorine Delacroix by the Assembler. This is not an Adam and Eve, obviously, but I love this piece so much. I really do. And I bought this kit, I don't know, a million years ago, it seems like. So it comes with, you know, it comes with the chart and the fabric and or the linen, and then all of the silks, which I believe these are all a Veriswa. And here's what I have done. It's not a whole lot. And as you can see, I was working on a hoop. I actually was using my Hardwick Manor? Hardwick House? Anyway. I bought a very nice, expensive hoop and was determined that I was going to stitch in a hoop. And yeah. I think that's about the point at which I set that aside. But look at that bright green. I just love this piece so much. And this beautiful, gorgeous turquoise blue. And it's got this satin stitched kind of ribbon looking band border. I just love it so much. So I'm up here in these little baskets, the white basket up here. So maybe I'll work on that. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I pulled out. Maybe I'll work on one of those. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll work on something that I dragged out to show you. We'll see. So anyway, that's that. I had one thing that I wanted to share. two things that I want to share. So you may remember my beautiful, beautiful Alice in Wonderland bag that I bought from down Sunshine Lane. Look at that sparkle. That I bought from down Sunshine Lane. This was made by Christine, Stitch All the Things. And I'm completely in love with this piece. Just absolutely in love with this bag. It is so well made, which I of course have gushed and gushed and gushed about. And it's funny because I was watching Elena, Olivia B's sister. I was watching Elena's videos, and I think in her second video she said, I was watching Flosstube videos and I saw this video, and like the front kind of cover picture had a bag with this fabric on it, and she just fell in love with it and had to go buy some of the fabric. And I was like, hey, I think that's my video. So anyway, so I was just, you know, I kept meaning to send Christine a little note and just tell her, you know, I'm so in love with this bag. I'm so in love with how well it's made, and it's just beautiful, and it was exactly what I wanted. And before I could get around to actually doing that, after I, you know, watched Elena's video, Christine actually sent me a note and said, hey, I have a little something for you, you know, can I get your address? And I'm like, sure. And by the way, I absolutely love this bag. It's the best thing in the whole world. So, and she was like, I'm just sending you something small. It's not a, you know, it's just something little. And I'm like, whatever, but FYI, I love this bag. So I get this package in the mail, and let me tell you, it could not have come on a better day. But I get this package in the mail, and I open it up, and look what's in it. Seriously. It's a little baby bag. It's a Notions pouch that matches my big bag. And before I go any further, let me tell you what's in this bag. So I have two pieces in this bag that are super special. So one of them is my moon phases piece that I started stitching for the eclipse. And the other piece that's in here is my piece, my model stitch for my piece that I designed. That's what lives in the special bag. So, Icemaker. So she sent me this cute little Notions pouch, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this so much. It's darling, and yeah. And then I'm like, what's going on in there? And lo and behold, and of course she had this all like packaged up nice, like I had bought it from her. I mean, just beautifully. And she sent this sweet little card that, you know, made me cry. And so she included this piece of fabric that is, it's pink, but then it's got a bunch of gray over dyed on it. And this is Love Child by, I don't know who. Maybe it's hand dyed by Stephanie? I'm not sure. Anyway, Love Child, 32 count. Really pretty. Really pretty for some Valentine's Day stitching. And then she also included 2 skeins of Mo's Sale. And look how pretty those are. And I have never stitched with Mo's Sale, so I'm really excited to try these. And I just think those are so pretty. That kind of bright turquoise into kind of a purpley, and then into this really pretty pink. And then, of course, it's gonna move right as I try to show it to you. This cute little button, which I think may need to be a needle minder. So yeah, just super sweet. So thank you so much, Christine. I can't thank you enough. So yeah, so that was one of the things that I wanted to show you. It's my sweet little Notions bag. And then the other thing that I wanted to share with you, and if you are friends with me on Facebook, you've probably been a little bit inundated with me sharing posts about this, but sorry. Not sorry. So this past weekend, I had the opportunity to go to a film screening here in Dallas at the Angelica Theater for a movie, a documentary that was made about a friend of mine. And so I think I posted back a long while ago about a fundraiser that she was here doing. And the documentary kind of ties in with that. So the name of the movie is, I've grabbed this little card so I can show you, Adele and Everything After. And so the documentary is about my friend Marty, and she has basically the first cardiac alert service dog, Adele, who is right here. And so the documentary is basically about kind of how how she got paired up with Adele, how they determined that she could actually do cardiac alerts, and kind of what that's like, as well as kind of the process of allowing Adele to retire, and the process that Marty went through to be paired with another service dog. And it shows kind of the training that that people and their service dogs go through, and it's through an organization called Canine Partners for Life. And I learned so much watching this film. I think if you've never been around somebody that has a service dog or really know anything about that, it's really eye-opening to see what these animals are capable of. So anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I will cry. So, but the film is actually being released on January 30th on Netflix and Amazon and iTunes, etc., any kind of video on demand platform. You can pre-order this on iTunes right now, and up until the 30th it is half price. So I highly recommend it. I am blown away by the film and just everything it took to to make this, and the amount that I learned about it, about service dogs, and about just that whole process. So anyway, I highly recommend it. If you are on Facebook, there is a Facebook page for Adele and Everything After. There is also a page, Adele's page, for Adventures of Adele, if you want to follow her. And the film is done by Long Haul Films, which is an independent film company. And yeah, and so anyway, I highly recommend it. I got the opportunity to go to the screening and see this with Marty and some other friends of ours and a whole theater full of people. So it was a really it was a really amazing experience, and I'm so thrilled that the film is doing well and has done well at some showings and some awards, film festivals, etc. And, you know, more importantly, I think that it's an opportunity for education about service dogs and about, you know, what they do and how they work, and that, you know, training them, etc. And the importance of that relationship between a service animal and their person. So, anyway, okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. So, go see the film, iTunes, January 30th. Get it before then, you can get a half price. And then come back and tell me what you thought of it. So, and Adele is a cutie pie, so you have to go see her. All right, I think that's all that I have for today. Like I said, I'm gonna do my Friday off the grid party stitching tonight. I don't know on what. That'll be a surprise for next time. I'm planning on doing my Woodpocalypse check-in post tomorrow, so you can see kind of where I got through this month. I think that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing and commenting and all that good stuff. Thank you for recommending my channel to other people, to other stitchers. I really appreciate it. And all of the show notes and everything can be found on my blog, cozyegg.cozyeggdesigns.com. So you can check out everything there. I will actually put a link in right here, right below the video on YouTube, to the information about Adele and everything after. So definitely go watch it. And thanks so much, guys. Have a great weekend.